वन गो। जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और आज हमारा सौभाग्य है, वी एक्सट्रीमली ऑनर्ड एंड प्रिविलेज टू हैव none other than the lady who I really admire a lot. You all know her. She needs no introduction. किसी तारुफ की मोहताज नहीं है ये. आपने अक्सर इनको देखा है टेलीविजन पे, आपने इनके आर्टिकल्स पढ़े हैं बड़े बड़े कॉलम्स में, आपने आउटलुक में, संडे में, द संडे गार्डियन में पढ़े हैं, आपने बड़े बड़े बहुत ही अच्छी लेखक हैं, बहुत ही अच्छा बोलती हैं. एंड यू हैव सीन her anchoring two of her shows on NewsX. She is the senior executive editor of NewsX with two shows of her own, The Round Table and The Cover Story, where she talks to different senior politicians all over. She has won two awards, I mean, for in the 2015 and 2017 for these shows. In fact, in the year 2002, she won an amazing, a very prestigious fellowship at the at UK, at London, at the House of Lords, which followed. She did an internship at the House of Lords and thereafter a course at the London School of Economics. She has recently been conferred by the Young Achievers Award in the field of media by FICCI. We will come to it. We will come to her journey. She did her MA from St. Stephen's College, a college which we all dream to go. But we will know the secrets about her success, about वो आज इस मुकाम पे पहुंची हैं अपनी मेहनत से, अपने बलबूते पे, और जिस जिस तरीके की इनकी जर्नी रही है बहुत ही ज्यादा इंस्पिरेशनल है. आपको एक बात और बता दूं, मैं एक महीने पहले, ठीक एक महीने पहले, 16 दिसंबर, वी हैड दिस इंडिया न्यूज एंड न्यूज एक्स कॉन्क्लेव, और प्रिया सहगल के पांव में फ्रैक्चर था, मगर फिर भी हिम्मत नहीं हार के ये क्रच लेके भी, व्हील चेयर के ऊपर भी, फिर भी अपना काम कर रही थी बखूबी से. एंड इट वाज समथिंग टू एक्चुअली एम्युलेट दैट डिस्पाइट बीइंग grievously wounded. many of us, हम लोग बैठ जाते हैं ना, हम सोचते हैं भाई चोट लग गई, भाई अब आज छुट्टी ले लेंगे, ये कर लेंगे, मगर नहीं, ये होती है actual real inspiration which we all should draw that inspiration from. Anyway, let's welcome, and she has a very long introduction. I am not going to go through the entire long introduction, and because you all know her, right? And now I'm very excited to come on conversation with her. So Priya, welcome and thank you so much for taking your time to be on this conversation, Priya.
Thank you, Mamachan. I have to first thank you for this lovely introduction. I mean, I was almost very impressed with myself hearing you talk about me like that. Thank you so much. It is a great pleasure and to be here also. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. Priya, firstly, let's start from your years at St. Stephen's College, because why I'm asking you about St. Stephen's, I'm coming in, though there is much more, is because my cousin, my first cousin, Vivan Shah, was also at St. Stephen's for a while. And that was a college which we all dream of going. And many of us don't get through, but you got to be some brains to go to get through St. Stephen's. So let's talk about a bit from your St. Stephen's days, Priya.
Well, St. Stephen's, I think it was an amazing experience. It's something which I feel really bad कि अभी आजकल के lockdown के time में people are not getting to experience college life. And I live actually very close to Lady Shriram College. So my mother had all planned for me. She's saying, pass me jaoge and, you can come home for lunch and everything. And I had also, I've come from an all girls school, from Vellum Girls, which was also very amazing. That experience by itself was, I loved each day of my boarding school life. But I said, now I really don't want to be sheltered and protected and not in another all girls system. So I was very keen to go to the university. And I knew that only thing my mother would say yes was if I got into a college where even she can't refuse. So when I got that admission, English literature is something I wanted to do. I got the course. So after that, of course, my mother could not say no. And we had an amazing time, because just being in college, I think you make friends, which we still have. We have a group called Dhaba Honors. I think anybody who goes to Stephens knows that Dhaba is really where everybody meets and everybody gets together. That's really the meeting point of when you bunk classes and you have that nimbu pani by Rotas, his thing, and there were the mince cutlets. So there's a whole way of life around the dhaba culture. So we've called ourselves the Dhaba Honors, and there are about 9-10 of us, and we actually manage to get away every year. We go to Goa or somewhere. So far, it's just been a lot of trips to Goa, but we managed to go. So those are the friends you've kept for your lives. The 10-11 of us. That's really the group which is family. We've lived in each other's houses. They know me as well as any brother sister. So an amazing group that I have, and that's the legacy of Stephens. That's my main legacy, is these friends at Dhaba Honors, I would really say. And like I said, the college has its name. It's got its own alumni, and I cover politics. So in politics also, both my school also helped. In fact, Mohammed Shah, I have to tell you, there were a lot of Doon School graduates in पॉलिटिक्स एट दैट टाइम. उस समय कांग्रेस थी, एंड डीएनए ऑफ डून इज कांग्रेस. इट यूज्ड टू बी, अब तो सब बीजेपी के भी हैं. But so my first political contact was Kamal Nath, and I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, you're from Doon, I'm from Vellums." So that's how we made a connect. And Stephens, there's a whole lot of people from there. I even ragged Rahul Gandhi in college. So there's a lot of your school college life that is now spilling over and helping me in my career today. A lot of contacts, lot of friends.
Superb. I purposely at the moment I had not mentioned about your vellums because I have a special connect with vellums. In fact,
You do?
yeah, I'm not with vellum girls, and in fact, not, my girlfriend was not from vellum girls, but I will come to it. I'll come more.
You knew where I was headed.
But anyway, I'm glad. And while we are talking about vellums, I had failed the entrance test for the Doon school, where my parents had dreamt of sending me after
Hmm.
my class fifth. In fact, so I went to another school. I went to Lawrence School, Lovedale in Ooty, another boarding school. And so
Hmm.
today I took out my boarding school tie. I said, I'm with Priya with this illustrious Vellamite. So I better get out my Lovedale tie and tell her, कि भाई हम भी boarding schools हैं हम आप जैसे. So I can so
You
relate.
said the same thing to Karan Thapar. I saw that.
Yeah, I told this to Karan, but the same thing I told this to Karan Thapar because he's from Doon and I
Right.
didn't get to Doon and you're from Vellum. So it's like a brother sister, though officially to nahi hai, but it's
Yeah.
like Vellum and Doon is unofficially a brother sister school. You can call it that way or whatever you may. जो ऑफिशियली बिल्कुल भी नहीं है मगर जब
Hmm.
हम दून की बात करते हैं तो वेलम का नाम हमेशा निकलता है रीजन बीइंग आल्सो both of them are in Doon and both of them are illustrious schools, prestigious schools, and at the same time both of them are non-coeds unlike Lovedale. But I love your observation. I mean, you said you caught me right there, but I had after interviewing Karan,
Hmm.
I kept my tie away. I wrapped up my things in my school thing and I kept it away. So I said कि भाई अब वो ओकेजन डिपेंड करता है ना कि फौजी जनरल्स के साथ बात करें तो आप जनरल साहब के साथ फौजी की टाई लगा के आएंगे and if it's somebody from from a boarding school you'll want to wear your boarding school tie. So I know a lot of people from Vellums who are doing exceedingly well. In fact, I don't know anybody from Vellums who would not be doing not well, exceedingly well. So what is that magic about Vellums that जो Vellumites होती हैं पहली बात तो is there a qualification that a Vellumite has to be like extremely smart as Priya Sahgal to get through?
I think it's part of the nurture in the school also. You get to be smart at Vellums. It's you're there 24 hours with the same people, so you makes you. And there are people from all over. We had a whole lot of people from the tea garden background. We had people from London. We had people from the UAE. Everyone, so it's a huge cultural mix. You get to meet friends. Like what neighborhood make. If I was in a day school, I would come and meet people in my neighborhood. But here, inside my dormitory only, and then you have this whole thing of being together at night. There were midnight feasts also. We had, even though half the time we were, it's not as sumptuous as Enid Blyton because we all grew up in Malritas and St. Clair's, those books. So we all thought कि हमको भी midnight feast करनी पड़ेंगी. But it was more the whole thing of being together and doing things and just staying, and how much we ate. You school
I
time, you eat. So
I
any
remember
excuse.
reading this The Bobbsey Twins by Enid Blyton, and it was
Hmm.
उसमें है कि about the midnight feast and all. It was fun. This was before I went to a boarding. तो हमको ये that was one of the incentives. My parents told me कि भाई midnight feast होंगी स्कूल में और ये होगा वो होगा. So it was like अरे super. Yeah, I can so
That's
connect with
what
that.
parents say. That's how they sell boarding schools. Same my mother did. Don't worry.
So you must have been you were a very active debater and an all-rounder in Vellums. And how was your experience on stage? I would like to know. You must have gone up on stage on several debates, declamations, or the one-act play competitions and all in school, right?
No, actually, I was a very shy introvert person, and in fact, all my friends in school, I think I haven't asked them, but I think they'll be pretty surprised at what I've become today in terms of being on television and being a journalist. The only play I acted in school was the Winslow Boy, and the role I got
Oh,
was of the Winslow Boy. Who, if you read the play, he sleeps throughout the
of
play,
course.
most of the show. He's been thrown out from school, and he comes home, and half the time all I had to do was sleep on the sofa, which I'm very good at. But I remember I was good at writing, and it was my Vellums teacher, Mrs. Sekri, the English teacher. who actually taught me how to. Her son is Abhinandan Sekri, News Laundry. I think you've heard
Of
of him.
course.
So she's the one who encouraged me into writing. She said, you write well, you have a style. So, and soon I became, and I used to love writing. So a lot of my friends, we used to do the essays. I was happily to write everybody's essays because I used to love writing. So I think that kind of, and I was the editor of my school magazine. And that, of course, got me into saying I want to do journalism or academic, something with writing and that kind of a field, not politics, not reporting. And it's very interesting because when I went, I was all set to go to Oxford. I wanted to go there and study, in fact, higher studies there. And I went for the interview because I got admission, but I needed a scholarship. So I went to the Radhakrishnan scholarship interview. And when I was there, someone told me, there's this guy, he's asking a lot of questions. He's in this yellow t-shirt and he's really, he's one of the, होता है from the interviewers who's this thing. So he's really a pain, ये वो. So I went in and looked at this guy, and I think in the interview it came out he was from Doon. I said, you're from Doon and you're being so this thing. And I was, I think, a little rude and out of my, because at the end of the day I was the one who was being interviewed. I think I acted too smart, and I didn't get the scholarship. But to his credit, he felt bad for me. He found me and he said, maybe it was our spat that cost you the thing, but you try again next year, blah blah blah. He said, what are you doing? And that time I was in an ad agency, but I said, I did my MA and I was biding my time. So I said, I'll try again next year. He said, why don't you try journalism? There's a magazine called Sunday, and why don't you apply there? And that's how it was his tip off. Then I went to Sunday, I got an internship, and I began by covering crime. So I met Charles Sobraj also. So that was a very interesting period. And then after 1 year, there was no way I was going to try again. I was very happy being a journalist. So it was really accidental, and my school college actually helped in one way.
And
So
the connection with vellums, my headmaster at Lovedale, Mr. Dave
mhm.
Lahiri, he was an Oxford Rhodes Scholar. Thereafter, after Lovedale, he went as headmaster of Vellum Boys, in fact. And many of my friends from Lovedale went to Vellums to teach. Some of them,
Hmm.
in fact, Mohit Sinha, Arjun Rao, they went to Vellum Boys. And my father was on the board of governors of Vellum Boys. So that's why,
Really?
yeah, so there's special connect with
Well, I
Vellums,
had
in
a
fact.
nasty run-in with Dave Larry, which I will tell you off camera, but I was
Oh, okay.
not a
Okay, all right.
happy
All
memory of
right.
it.
All right. But seriously, what a man. He used to walk into our large hall for our assembly and so charismatic, what an orator. And we would be like totally in awe of, oh, I had Master Dave Larry, towering personality, 6 feet 2 inches, and terrific rider, sportsman, an amazing person. Okay.
That's not the
So,
Dave Larry I know. I must tell you. Anyway, that's not the
okay,
correct.
fine, fine. We will speak on that. And so Priya, you've had the best of education. You in the way that best of school in the country, best of college in the country, best of internationally. In fact, if you see at the House of Lords, you did an internship and LSC. In fact, you did a course over there. The best anyone can actually ever dream of. So, do you attribute because again, literacy is different and education is different. I would say you are very well literate and very well educated as well at the same time. So, do you attribute to where you are today? And as I rightly said, it's not that I made you blush while giving your introduction. I really meant it that Priya Sahgal आज की तारीख में कौन नहीं जानता है, ठीक है? So tell me, do you attribute it to the kind of education or you've had, or you already had that fire inside you? तो जरूरी नहीं है कि अगर आपकी वो तालीम नहीं होती, आप फिर भी जहाँ पे हैं वहां पे आप पहुंच जाते.
नहीं दोनों है the like I was saying, nature भी है, nurture भी है. Of course, being in school and college, both it brings you a certain confidence, adds this thing, and you wear your credentials with pride. Whatever it is, people एक जमाने में people were looking back and saying, Stephens or Wellams, they are good names, good colleges, so that gives you that foot in the door, so to speak. A lot of people उस समय Congress was in power, a lot of them had politicians were from the same background also, so one could gel with them. In fact, at that time I was in India Today, and Prabhu Chawla used to laugh at me कि तुमने young politicians को एक beat बना दिया है. But all that class of 2004, when Rahul Gandhi, Milind Deora, Jitin Prasad, Sachin Pilot, Sindhya, all of them had debuted that time, and they were all, yes, of course they were dynasts, but they all came from a certain similar background. Harvard, Lincoln's Inn, Ovesi. There was most of them were from Doon or from some. So there was some commonness I would find. You kind of crack the same jokes. You kind of, you knew that they won't take offense at something you said. There was some level playing field in that sense. So yes, I did feel there was some advantage to make not just contacts, but to get some sort of friendly rapport with them also. And a lot of it is also my atmosphere at home. I have to, my mother was, she studied abroad, so she's also been pretty, she's a working woman, so she also taught me, in fact we used to have a lot of banter at home, answering back banter. She writes well. I remember initially, her favorite thing was when she was cooking in the kitchen was she used to come make us read newspapers. So my brother and I, our holiday thing was that we had to read aloud. She said, "Unchi unchi pado." So we used to read the headlines out aloud to her, and so she could correct our pronunciation, enunciation. Literally, I remember going to her and saying, "Mama, my shirt is torn. Can you stitch it?" She'll say, "But is it torn or is it ripped?" So that became a big joke in the house. Is it torn or
Yeah,
is it ripped?
I can so connect with that. I can so connect. My father does the same thing. In fact, he also is from boarding school in Nainital, St. Joe's
Hmm.
College, Irish Brothers. So exactly, I can so the moment you said is it torn, is it ripped, I made a connect. I was like, this is so exactly identical to us. Go on, Priya, please. I'm loving listening to you.
No, it's a great. I'm liking the conversation also. So exactly. So this kind of, maybe that helped. And in Sunday magazine, of course, I have to tell you, I was taken in by the bureau chief, and by the end of 1 year, he's saying, "Bhai, aapke saath, you find another job." He's saying you meet deadlines well. That I must say for you. But apart from that, he was not ready to renew. So I was pretty disheartened. And I think MG Akbar was launching his that paper, Asian Age. So I went and I met him, and MJ gave me a job. So that's when I met Veer Sangvi. He was that time in Calcutta based, and I said, I'll be quitting. So he said, "But why are you quitting?" So I said, "Because, I've got this other job, and you guys told me you don't need me anymore." He said, "Rubbish." He said, "If you want to leave, of course, please do. But otherwise, we are very happy to have you." I still remember उस ज़माने में fax machines होती थी. So he just
Huh.
pulled off some fax had come in from somewhere, and on the other side, he just wrote, "Here's a confirmation letter." So I was, that's how, and working in that Sunday magazine. It was a very small magazine, because it was Calcutta based. There was Aditi Fadnes, Veer Sangvi, and these, there was, that time there was no, what should I say, this whole cutthroat business of seniors not mentoring juniors. वो सब नहीं था. I remember my first political contacts. Aditi made me meet Chidambaram. Veer Sangvi took me to meet Pilot, Kamalnath, Narasimha Rao. I met with him. You were taken around, you were shown the ropes, and like I said, I was covering crime, and graduating from crime to politics was very natural because उस समय हवाला का scam हुआ था. And sure enough, as being a crime story, I was following it, and I made friends with all these guys. As I said, Kamal Nath was one of the first few I met because of this. So it was pretty natural, and I think it just, I was lucky that I met people who were happy to mentor. I was very lucky also, who nurtured you, mentored. It was all accidental. I'm really an accidental journalist, I would say. Sanjay Baru won't mind me stealing his lines, but and I've never regretted it. Never
Accidental Prime
regretted it.
Minister.
Yes.
Right,
So I'm
right.
very happy. And television again. This is my second stint. I don't think you'll remember, but I did 8 months in Aaj Tak.
I of
And
course I know that very well. I know that very well. Yeah, yeah. I was waiting to hear that from you. In fact, I know that very well. In fact, there's so much to your introduction. In fact, even I missed. I didn't really say I missed out. There's certain thing I didn't bring out. One very important aspect is you are the author of the best-selling book, The Contenders, which was published in November 2018, and it features 16 eminent young politicians, including Rahul Gandhi, Arvind Kejriwal, Madhurav Sindhya, and the young ones, basically the young dynamic ones. We will come to
yeah,
that.
yeah,
There's,
yeah.
there's a lot, in fact, to cover with you, in fact, Priya. So there are a lot of things which I may not have spoken at then, but we are going to be covering every aspect.
You've
And
done your
trust you
research
me.
very well. I'm very impressed. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So trust you me right now today. If someone says let's lay a bet on Priya Sahgal, I said I have done a PhD on Priya Sahgal. भाई हमसे क्या बात करोगे? So it's like that. All right. So then tell us about your see you ventured into political journalism, and in fact you've been in political journalism for over for 3 decades, in fact. So
Right.
was it a conscious step that you will journalism? Yes, I get it, but political journalism, why specifically political journalism? Like you had thought that okay, and you, I presume you were not really fond of politics also in school that much.
Not
So
at
why
all.
specifically political journalism, Priya?
Well, actually, it happened by accident. I love writing, and in Sunday magazine, my first few jobs were stories were of what we call the back of the book, which is features and profiles of writers, authors. Naveen Patnaik I interviewed as a writer and not as a politician. Charles Sobraj, I met him many times. By the way, I have a lot of his letters because he ran Tihar like a fiefdom. Literally, I used to go to court to try and catch him, and he used to always tell me, fax me your questions. I said, but you're in jail. He said no, and he gave me a number, and sure enough, he would fax me his answers. One day he even called, and a friend of mine picked some landlines thing, and she picked up the phone in the office, and she said someone saying he's Charles Sobraj is on the line. Somebody's pulling a fast one, and he was there on the other side of the line. So so it was fascinating catching up with all these people. And like I said, after Hawala, I got into politics. And for me, I must tell you, initially I was really wide-eyed. I was literally, learning the ropes as to what is. I was, a lot of kids today are pretty, very politically aware. But at that time, or maybe one was in a boarding school and not really into all this things. I was not very politically aware, I must say. So initially, and for me, it was amazing. You were watching history being happening in front of your eyes. I never took a holiday. I was in office, and I was covering the Congress beat. So I used to. There was this 24 Akbar Road is a party office, and
Of
every day there
course.
was a briefing at 4:30. So after I used to come to my office, and by 2:30 something, we used to go to the BJP office. 3 बजे वहाँ की briefing होती थी. 4 o'clock was Congress briefing. Then there was off the record briefing with Ajit Jogi, a little bit VN Gadgil, but mostly it was Ajit Jogi during my time. And everybody used to hang around there. Then we used to either go to somebody's room, Digvijay Singh, Ambika Soni, so many people, Janardhan Dwivedi, and have chai with them, RPN Singh, sit and chat. And it was amazing, that whole environment. And you were discussing things that would tomorrow be in the headlines, and you already had an inside track. For me, that was very heady, I must say. I was pretty taken in and pretty excited. And literally, I used to be coming home late because after that we used to go and we used to work in groups. 3 4 of us used to go, chalo ab isko milte hain, go to Kamalnath's house or go to Azad's house, Ahmed Patel, things like that, and catch up with them, talk to them, get all the khabron ke piche kya hai kind of information, and come back. And because I was in a magazine, I've never worked in a daily, by the way. Even now, my
Okay.
shows are all weekend shows. I don't do this. I don't do breaking news. I rather do explanatory journalism, anecdotes. I rather tell the story than just report some, high pitched breaking news. So, and that gave me the freedom to actually talk to people, sit down, have a cup of coffee, make friends with them, because I didn't have to rush in, rush out. Sound bite नहीं करनी थी मुझे पूरी कहानी सुननी थी. And that's how I made friends also. Politicians as friends, but you do make connects and with people. And because they also, you at the end of the day, you find something in common. It doesn't have to be politics all the time. And I've made some pretty good political contacts, I would say, in that sense, which have helped me. When I was in TV, they all helped me. They all, I got a lot of my first interviews from people who were happy to give me a break and to help me along the TV career. So yeah, I don't regret. As I keep saying it, I really have enjoyed my life as a journalist.
Right. Ajit Jogi's children were, in fact, in my school in Lovedale. Amit Jogi, who was my
Next,
senior,
oh,
and Anusha Jogi was my classmate. In fact, we were very, very close. She and my sister Saira were often, like, they were used to hang out together all the time.
mm,
And you mentioned about 24 Akbar Road. They were actually neighbors. My father also was in the army. In fact, when he was the deputy chief of the Indian Army,
mm,
he was residing at 21 Akbar Road. So whenever I was posted in Nagaland at that time, so whenever I would visit
mm.
them, by default, I would see 21 Akbar Road, and I would see the media vans and the crowd outside it. So it was that's a kind of experience. So now, Priya, tell us, you have been a very responsible, a very mature, a very analytical political journalist. You have, in fact, your shows, in fact, people who have watched the roundtable or they've watched the cover story, they know that Priya does not believe in confronting or being impolite to anybody who, in fact, she has interviewed the best and the biggest of politicians. It's more of analytical. It's something to take home from, to learn and to understand, and you handle it in a very, very fine, dignified, mature, with a lot of elegance and poise. How do you manage that? I mean, I've seen people actually shouting and screaming and making a mess out of the show. Then, for some reason, unfortunately, today that is considered to be good journalism, which is not. Which is not. Let's accept it. But the way you handle things in a very pragmatic manner. How does that come to you, Priya?
I think first of all, I decided that I saw a couple of these channels, and I said this is what I don't want to be. So I had a template of what not to do. In fact, somebody coined this phrase, and I love it. They call these channels the Ravan channels, where there are 10 talking heads, but only one person talks. There are 10 windows. So I did not want to be a Ravan channel or a Ravan anything. So that was one thing, and I really enjoy conversations. I think everybody, and the reason why you called your guests is because they are names that people want to hear. They don't want to hear your view. At there's always this debate because today journalists have become brand names. So people want to know what is Rajdeep saying, or what is so point of view, or Arnav's point of view, or people want to know the journalist point of view. But it's, I don't know, at some point I also think that you haven't switched on the show just to hear Priya's point of view, but who Priya has got, and the table she's curated. And I have to tell you, it's always been, and I'm so happy you said what you said, because it makes me feel good, because I wanted to have a table where people would want to be, would want to be fight, or would think it's a privilege to be on part of my round table, to get a seat on the round table. I wanted to create that kind of a place where people would want to come and sit down and be a part of that conversation. So if you said that, I really feel good about it, that I've seemed to have achieved what I set out to do.
No,
And
it's very commendable. In fact, I have seen you interviewing people with different ideologies, different parties, and with equal amount of respect, equal amount of credit to them, and because they're your guests at the end of the day. And I've seen you handle it in a very, very fine, mature manner, which in fact led me to reach out to you. In fact, in fact, more than a couple of years back, I looked out for you on social media and I sent you a message. And when I had the honor and the privilege of actually meeting you in person, face to face, in flesh and blood, I told you, Priya, my goodness, it's such an honor to meet you. I've been trying to reach out to you for so long, and here I actually don't believe myself. I'm actually getting to meet you, and right now I'm actually getting to interview you. Also, one more thing, we'll come back to this question. Also, one more thing I would like to ask: how does it feel for a change to be on the other side, where yeah.
it feels, I must tell you, it feels really strange, and now I know what everyone must be feeling. But the way you've done your homework, you it's great, this thing to talk to you. It's you when someone feels like actually having a conversation and telling you things, because the atmosphere you've created over here is also brilliant. That's something I hope which every interviewer should do, to make the other person want to talk, and that's what you've done. So I think you've got a career waiting for you every time you want to make a switch.
There you are. There you are. I mean, I already have what do you say, a godfather or a helper. Thank you so much, Priya, for that. Really means it so much to me. In fact, I somewhere secretly, somewhere in my childhood, I would see that time we used to have Salma Sultana on Doordarshan,
Ah.
the newsreader from Doordarshan, the rose in her head, and she used to be reading, and we'd be like, wow, and what a graceful lady. And today, there are so many people who are there, so many anchors who are there, who are all doing a very good job, yes, but there are very few who have actually reached the mark and made a name the way Dosco, like Karan Thapad, of course, Priya Sahgal, a Wellamite. I'm not being biased towards boarding schools, huh, guys? Don't take me wrong. I'm not being biased towards boarding schools at all. And I generally mean it. And there's some people who we really, really look up to, be like, wow, so and so is doing so well. And so there was a desire somewhere in my heart to actually be like Salma Sultana, though she being a lady, I used to always idolize her. Anyway, so as they say, the power of positive thinking, it's all about manifestation. And in a way, it did come in the year 2019. I suddenly, overnight, I
Ah.
became a defense analyst, defense and strategic expert for a lot of TV channels. And so that's one thing, we all boarders, most of us have this habit of reading. It is inculcated to
That's true.
us very early in life. So we read a lot. We tend to always lay our hand on reading. And so by virtue of that, I was always very this thing about keeping myself abreast with the current affairs. So now, and it's a dream for me that I am actually sitting this side, and there is a lady who I really admire sitting there, and we are in a wonderful conversation. Priya, let's go on to the year 2002, when you were awarded this prestigious fellowship. You went to the House of Lords and you experienced at the London School of Economics, where you did your a course over there. Let's talk about your stint in the UK there.
Yeah, that was actually a very interesting, because there was this Hansard Fellowship. Usually, people, there's the Chevenings Fellowship that we all know about, and most journalists or young professionals apply for that. That gives you a 3 month stint in London, and they put you in an internship with various places. I was the first one to get the Hansard Fellowship. It was just launched that year, and I was the only Indian there. So that was different from Chevening, because there you made a lot of friends from different backgrounds, and they put you up in a flat at it was just off Oxford Street, in fact. So you had the world's best shopping place right at your doorstep. Literally, they gave you an you were given some kind of a pocket money thing also, and we all were supposed to finish a project for the London School of Economics. We had to put, there were the classes, and we had to actually submit a paper. So I did something on the art of spin doctoring, because at that time there was this Tony Blair, and there was this whole, spin doctoring was really, Mendelssohn was very much there. So it was very much being talked about, how spin doctoring is coming into politics, and now of course we see it happening. So it was a brilliant course that I did, and I interned with Lord Dholakia. He was a member of the House of Lords, and you were there, to be there. I even attended one of the PM's questionnaires, which PMQs, which are really, difficult to manage to get in. And I saw the banter. It was like, but that's like a press conference the PM has with the journalists every week, I think it is. And he's open, and there are questions, and there's bantering, and there are people who cover the 10 Downing Street beat. So only those journalists are allowed in, and there is so much, it's, I don't we, our prime minister doesn't even have a press conference. So but he knows them by name. There is, and they call him, and they say, hey, this is not correct, and who you fooling, and that kind of a thing. So it was a different atmosphere. Then I went and attended a session at the House of their parliament also. So it was just walking in those corridors. I attended one of the committee meetings, and my name came in the minutes of the meeting also. We were allowed to do that. And working in the office, I was helping them answer letters, and getting coffees. We had lunch in one of the used to lunch in the restaurants there. So it was just being part of that whole ecosystem was so heady. And when I came back to India, I remember, not when I came back, but around, I was always very excited. I also covered Parliament here. So just being in the central hall of Parliament, not central hall ka paas nahi tha, but just being in Parliament is amazing. You get to meet these people. There's a banter, there is this thing. Then you see the debates in the House. Now we don't have those debates, but during Vajpayee's time, there was a lot of rhetoric and good debating happening also. So to get a ringside view on all this, it's a privilege. It's been really something. I wish I'd kept a diary, because now I'm remembering all these things. That time I was just too busy being in the moment and living the moment. But I remember Vajpayee's prime minister, the PMO. It was one of the most fun PMOs. They had. I can't. There was an office in South Block where the prime minister sits, and then there was his office at home, and both his PSs at home. There was Ajay Bisaria, who was from the Ministry of External Affairs. There was Anand Rajan from the IRS, and young guys, and very cool. It was a very cool PMO, considering it was Vajpayee and Sanghi and RSS and all that. But he was very relaxed, and he ran a good place, and we had a good fun covering it, going on the PM strips. I'm really this thing that Narendra Modi has not taking. He's keeping journalists so far away, because उसमें अलग मजा था. Being on the PM's plane, I remember you could interact with the whole prime minister's office. Prime minister used to come out of his cabin and address us. थोड़ा सा off the record banter होता था. It's that's part of politics. Doesn't have to be all work and all just one way communication. That two-way communication helps to humanize the politicians, helps us to get to know them, their issues better also. It works both ways. That's what's missing today, that I really feel bad. And I'm glad at that time I got to experience that era also, where there was a two-way communication, and one could actually, the prime minister himself was. I used to meet him in Parliament. He used to see Vajpayee. He used to see journalists. He's coming. SPG aa rahe hain. So he used to just hang near the walls. They didn't shoo us away, and he used to come walking. He look at us, say, "Arey khatra, khatra." He used to look at us, say, "Arey," in his usual style. He used to do this and say, "Khatra." Then we used to ask him. He used to give some enigmatic answer on the issue of the day and walk on. But hey, you just spoke to the prime minister, so it was fun.
Superb, yeah, superb, superb. That's amazing. So tell me, how did your current where you're working, NewsX? How did you join NewsX? And you had a very nice, very illustrious, very smooth journey. In fact, a very smooth sailing. And how did you get working with NewsX? In fact, one of my favorite
Well,
channels, I must say, and I'm not saying because you are there. I'm saying one of my favorite channels because every day in the morning, your guest coordinators, Muskan and everybody else, they and Apurva and all, Sharib and Gaurav and all, they call me up. Ali bhai, can you come live right now? I'm like, right now, okay, ठीक है, अभी आ रहा हूँ भाई, 10 सेकंड में आ रहा हूँ मैं, कट 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 कट, मतलब अब ये हाल हो गया कि अगर मैं नींद में सो भी रहूंगा ना,
you
I
can
go
give
to
up.
sleep. Yeah, so I can cut. I have mastered the art of just coming live in 10 seconds, in fact, and I love it. I enjoy it, and because I enjoy it, that is why your guest coordinators always think of me, and I'm very grateful to them. In fact, yeah. So tell me about how did you get start with NewsX? In fact,
No, in fact, NewsX is a very young team. I think we must be the youngest team in the channel. All these people are talking about are just kids. I probably maybe one of the oldest in NewsX. So it's a very, very young team. And which is what I like, because it's a different way of looking at issues. We're not looking at the old hackneyed way, and we cover a lot of issues that are not run of the mill also. We do a lot of foreign affairs. We do a lot of young entrepreneurs. We bring in a lot of faces that you don't see in the day to day in the normal other channels. And
exactly.
for me to be on television was, Aaj Tak was not, I was not very happy in Aaj Tak, because I was at much junior level. So they had made me into a soundbite collector. Literally, यहाँ जाओ उसकी bite लाओ, because print का background था, so a lot of politicians knew me. They used to not say no to me when I went to get a soundbite. But that was about all that I did, really. So I was, and it was, I didn't have time for anything else. I still remember when I wanted to quit Aaj Tak, Uday Shankar was there. He was the my boss. I've forgotten his designation, but I was reporting to him, and he said, "But why do you want to quit TV?" So I said, "Because I want to have lunch and coffee and with my sauces. I have no time to sit and have coffee with my sauces." He said, "I don't get it." I said, "You won't, but that's it. I know you had to just rush in, rush out, because वो bite पहुंचानी थी, and उस समय, of course, now everything is uploaded in a minute, but that time you had to actually physically take that cassette to the OB van, upload it, make sure it's aired. Too much work, and too much of the wrong kind of work. So I was very happy. I went to India today, and I said, never again TV. But Kartikeya Sharma, the owner and the managing director of NewsX, was someone I knew, and I liked him. He's again young, and he was, he said, I want to just, he said, I'll let you do what you want. He said, I'm going to give you space, which is what was very important to me, is that there will be no diktat coming from above saying, you have to cover this topic, and you have to get this guest and only this guest, and there's no bureaucracy or red tape in NewsX. You have an idea, you just do it, and it usually, at least at my level and all, it does get on air without any issues at all. So, and he gave me that freedom, so I really owe Kartikeya a big thank you for that. And he also trusted in me, because I told him initially, I still speak very fast. I have to keep telling myself to slow down. I said, I have no TV presence. I speak fast. And he says, no, easy time mein ho jayega. So he gave me that time to, train myself, to sharpen my things. He gave me that whole platform, really. So I think it worked very well. I hope for him too. For me, it's worked very well. And Touchwood, it's a happy place. And now I've got my two shows, and I come on, various issues. And I'm not very good as a panelist. I may be very when I'm hosting a show, but as a panelist, I do get into a lot of fights. I have to tell you. Sometimes I get very irritated with the other spokesperson when they just go on saying something is a lie, but they say it in such a smug manner, self-righteous manner, that it irritates me. And very often I've lost, I have to correct myself and say, let me not lose my cool. So I'm a different person as a panelist.
But let me tell you, I have enjoyed my. I have been on almost all national television channels as a panelist. I have
Mm.
enjoyed the most, and I'm not being biased about it. I have enjoyed the most being a panelist at NewsX, in fact, because and thanks to people, it all, as you say, it all trinkles from the top, And of course, Kartik Sharma, thorough gentleman. When I met him personally, I wasn't expecting such a down to earth, humble, soft spoken person. And in fact, Rishabh Gulati, be it Uday Pratap Singh, be it Vineet Malhotra, be it Megha Sharma, be it all of you, Meenakshi Upreti, and in fact,
You know my whole channel better than I do.
आपसे गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे तो पूरा पढ़ के सब कुछ आया था. Riyanka Chaudhary, Priyanka Sharma, you name it. Diksha Yadav is left now. Diksha Yadav was there earlier, and in fact, Ria Chima was there. In fact, she also is from a boarding school, Lawrence School, Sanar.
I
इतना
see.
तो
Huh?
इतना तो भी हम समझ के जाते हैं भाई इतना. And so yes, I know your entire team. In fact, I know your guest coordinator. I know so Newsx एक तरीके से मैं मेरे दिल के बहुत करीब में है. I consider myself to be a part of you. In fact, रोज डेली आपके चैनल पे आता हूँ मैं Newsx पे और
You're part of
different
the News
classes.
family. Yeah.
In fact, I was live with Rishabh just now, just before we logged in over here. फिर
Okay.
आपने जब मैसेज किया कि भी थोड़ा इतना मैं it suits works very well because I was on a conversation with Rishabh and at the same time मैं खटखट WhatsApp पे तो वहाँ पे जब अक्सर ऐसा होता है ना WhatsApp पे है ऑनलाइन
हाँ.
दिखा रहा है but you are live like right
You're
now if
right.
you see my WhatsApp will probably show live will show
Hmm.
online मतलब so
Hmm.
दोस्त लोग यार दोस्त भैया hey hi dude what's up how the weather अब उनको अब लिखो भैया हम अभी लाइव पे हैं come on you are sitting online ऐसा लोगों का अनुमान तौर पे
Yeah.
मानना है आई एम श्योर इवन यू मस्ट हैव एनकाउंटर्ड दैट है ना
Yeah.
प्रिया so when you are on a live and if supposing your WhatsApp shows online and someone
Hmm.
sending you a private message hey how are you what's up long time how do you handle that or do you ignore it you choose to ignore it that time
No, I try and ignore it because I've kept my phone on silent as much as I can. It's because also you're missing the thread of the conversation. So I try and ignore it unless, of course, or then I just say I'm live right now. So that's not a big issue unless someone takes umbrage. Then of course we have a problem. But mostly people will understand. But
right
it's difficult also, because you know what the other, especially when when you're hosting the show, of course, there's no way you can look at, you haven't looked at the WhatsApp at all right now. But if you're being a panelist, yeah, your attention wanders, but it shouldn't because you miss some important point. And if you are a face on the TV and someone is saying something and you haven't contradicted it, that means you go along with it. And that's something in today's day and age, you have to be very careful. So I think you really need to pay attention and make
right
sure
right Right.
that.
And let's talk about when you got the award in 2015. In fact, it was followed once again in 2017. How was why were you expecting it, or would have you been surprised had you not got the award at that time? Or what were your emotions and your reactions upon getting the show? Undoubtedly, you deserved it very well. In fact, that is the union's choice of everyone. In fact, everyone would vouch for it. What went through you when you got the award for the best show in 2015 first?
Well, actually, that was the first award I'd got for my television career. So yeah, it was a huge high, but I was expecting more, because I really think some of the shows are very good. My whole team was excellent. We had a very good team of producers, of graphic designers, and my whole programming team. Whether from first there was a young kid called Ritika, then Geeta Datta, Ujjwal Tyagi, Richa Sharma, who's currently with me also. She's an anchor and she does a whole lot of shows on her own. But she's my current producer. Pankaj Sharma. Then there's a whole lot of I think Viresh, who's the guy who does the. He's a producer who does all the graphics and the editing. So we have a very, very good team of experts. We produce very good quality stuff. So in that sense, and what I like most doing is the narratives, because I'm used to writing stories. So interviewing a person is there, but if you do a documentary on an issue, you get people's quotes, but you also get your point of view in a voiceover. That's my favorite format, and that's what actually won the award. We did something on triple talaq, which was a mix. It had a short. In fact, this young boy called Utkarsh did a lot of the reporting for that also. So and then we had a discussion around the issue of triple talaq, and that's what got me that award. So it was a very well packaged in terms of technical stuff, in terms of content. So I was of course, I was thrilled. I didn't, when you submit it, you don't know. You always hope कि हो जाएगा, but जब होता है तो फिर उसका अलग मजा होता है. That was a lovely surprise. It was a amazing point to just go there and get the award. So it's a great high and a very happy time.
And you got once again in 2017 again, and of course, the entire team must have been very, very proud of you. And it all comes from because you are a great leader, apart from being a good boss as well. I've seen because a boss says I, a leader says we. A boss says get there on time. A leader gets there ahead of time. A boss knows how it is to be done. The leader shows how it is to be done. The boss lets his people know where he stands. The leader lets his people know where they all stand. The boss takes the credit, the leader gives it away. So, Priya, you're a leader, not just a boss only. So, Priya, in 2017, when you got this award again, and now, of course, I mean, 2016 में उसके बाद, how did you feel at that time in 2017? Was it the same emotion that you went through in 2017, 2016, or slightly different than that?
No, no, same. It's every award is, I think, is to be celebrated, and it gives you a huge high. It has a great feeling to do it. That you're still with it, you haven't lost it, and it's being recognized. The main thing is that others are appreciating you, getting some recognition for what you've done. Because within us and the whole programming team, it's like I said, it's a great team. It's the quality, the shows. We actually used to have these meetings, which I really miss, and bounce ideas, कौन से guest को बुलाएं, ये करे वो करे. So we used to have good fun. And our round tables, as you know, we shoot them offline, outside the studio. So a lot of them I used to be shooting first. We, of course, we had this Geeta Datta, very intrepid girl. She managed to work some deals with hotels, and we got a lot of these conference rooms at cheap throwaway prices. Then after that they stopped. Then we started talking to politicians, using their homes, because their homes are in Lutyens, Delhi. They're the huge lovely lawns and that lovely white colonial house in the background. And especially in winters, it makes a lovely setting. And most of them said yes. Nobody says no. They were very kind, very sweet. So we shot a lot of my shows on the lawns of people's houses, politicians' houses. And other MPs feel comfortable dropping in also. It's close by in terms of geography, in terms of comfort factor also. So,
That's
and what I most enjoy for my shows, and we shot a lot of shows in Constitution Club also, which in the office books. So what I enjoy most of the shows was that the post, the coffee afterwards, because that's when everybody really relaxes and chats. You have four people coming and getting together for a cup of coffee, and then there's banter, there's a lot of gupshup, there's a lot of things. So I always keep time for that also after my shows, because I know we're going to sit and have a good cup of coffee and a conversation. And that's the print journalist in me, because print mein yahi hota hai na, you go to meet people and you chat with them, and story bhi nikal aati hai, rishte bhi bante hain. So that part has been kept alive by shooting the round table outside the studio, because studio you have to come on air and then go off air in half an hour when the show is over. But when you're outside, there's no time pabandi. You can sit and chat for as long as you like, and you have people coming across. They've also made the trouble to come across and be there, so they'll also sit and chat with you for a while and not rush off. So I think that format really works well, actually. So it's kept up the print journalist in me, and of course the TV part of it.
right. A year later, after we won this award in 2018, in the month of November, you released your best-selling book, The Contenders, and which did really well and still doing well. And a lot of people who have read it swear by it. It has featured six eminent young politicians, in fact, very, very dynamic. And in fact, when you release this book, so of course, it's not something that one pens a book overnight. I've seen my father writing his book, The Sarkari Musalman, and it took him few years, and a lot of burning the midnight oil, and then ultimately it's a very, very big thing when your first book is actually released. So tell us about the Contenders. In fact, I'll tell you more to it after this, but we would like to hear from you, in fact, and what made you feature these 16 eminent politicians, Priya.
Well, actually, the book was supposed to be originally a book on Akhilesh Yadav, because I had covered the 2012 campaign, no, 2007, 2012 campaign, where
Right.
he was launched, and, which was really seeing him coming of age of Akhilesh Yadav also. And I spent a lot of time with him, and I really thought, this guy who's stuck in a party of the Mulayam Singh Yadav, of Luddites who don't even say no to computer. And he was that time had his BlackBerry, and he was young, tech savvy, computers, and also he was his first step that was he denied ticket to DP Yadav, showing that he's not against that. He's against that whole corruption. And how Samajwadi Party gives tickets to Bahubalis. Akhilesh was against it. So it was a different kind of a thing. And I said, this is the making of a leader. So I thought I'll do that book. But over time, then when he became CM, he didn't really live up to it, and he was overtaken by his father and that whole gang of four. His uncles were ruling it, so that book kind of was hit pause. Then I thought, it's the age of Modi, and how are these young leaders going to take him on? Because there's one Modi, and there is, at that time was also a time of change in each party. Rahul Gandhi was just becoming party president. Of course, he's stepped back after that. Tejasvi Yadav was coming into his heritage. The younger Badals were taking over. Arvind Kejriwal was heading one party. Everywhere you see, there was a generational change happening. Omar Abdullah was coming into his own, taking over from his father. So I said, each party there is a generational change, and this is the lot that's going to be facing Prime Narendra Modi. There was time of a Gadbandhan against him in the 2019 elections. Jayan Chaudhary also. So I thought, let me cover all these guys and see how they are going to pit themselves. And all of them were dynasts. They had a degree, pedigree of privilege. They had studied abroad and come back to India. So they all, were saying we'll do politics in a different way. So how do they pit their education, their dynasty, their privilege against Narendra Modi? So that was the whole premise of the book. And for that, I knew most of them. I'd met them in Parliament, followed their careers right from their debut. But I met them again. Most of them I met again for a conversation for the book, specifically. I went to Srinagar to meet Omar. I went to Lucknow and met Akhilesh, and met Tejasvi, met the Badals, met all of them. In fact, I think except Rahul Gandhi did not meet me specifically for the book. He has a huge issue, I'm told, about meeting people anyway. But I had met him once on a one-on-one, and I met him a couple of times in his interactions with journalists, and plus I've been following his career. So all in all, it was a fascinating book, and I'm seeing that they're still relevant, all of them today, whether it was Tejasvi or Akhilesh or Omar or Rahul. They're all still around, and Kejriwal. So there is still, that book is still has a shelf life, thank God.
Of course. In fact, Akhilesh Yadav, when he had won the election, he had taken over the CM of UP. That time it was
Hmm.
a very big sensation. In fact, he was the man of the moment. In fact, everybody had really high hopes, and he was the man. In fact, his father-in-law also was in the army. In fact, Colonel Rawat, Dimple's father.
Oh, I
So
see. All right.
yeah, he was a Colonel Rawat, and very fine officer. In fact, so also, now, in 2014, Rajdeep Sardesai released a book a few years earlier about
Hmm.
the year 2014, the election that changed India. In fact, I
Hmm.
was very fortunate that he had gifted that book to me. I had met him in Aligarh. He had come when my father was vice chancellor of the AMU. That time he had
Hmm.
come there and he had gifted me the signed copy. I have that lying with me. So I found a lot of similarity. In fact, these the political journalists. It is. I find it very. It can be. It can get very, very challenging. Like, has it ever happened to you that someone has tried to say that, हमको यहाँ पे ऐसे promote, because politicians are very influential people at the end of the day. They rule over
Yeah.
the bureaucrats. They rule over this thing. So they many times they try to bully their way through a lot of the times. So has it ever happened that, and I've seen that no one can ever arm twist or bully Priya Sahgal. She has a mind of her own, and she has a way of dealing with whatever, with things in a very clear, crystal clear, very transparent way. But has it ever happened to you that behind the camera, offhand, someone's trying to actually try to arm twist you or something? No, we'll not name the personality, but we will just talk about the incident if such a thing has ever happened with you.
No, for instance, a lot of people, of course, want to be covered in a certain way. Also, they'll say "ye baat chhod do" or whatever. And I remember once I did a cover story for India Today, and I did all these young MPs, their first day of Parliament, and I got them to stand next to the Gandhi statue. And
Hmm.
now in a cover, you can only fit in a certain number of people. So I got 7, 8 of them. But I still remember one of them called me later and said, "Tum aap mera ko akela kar do na, or can you put me, highlight me in the middle, or show me more." I think he didn't make it to the cover, so he was unhappy that he was not on the cover. Then he said, "Why don't you make me a cover or Photoshop me in or something like that?" So one had to say no to him. So he's a good guy, but he, for whatever reasons, he did not make the cut. So stuff like that happens. A lot of politicians are also, they used to complain to Arun Puri that why have you written. I still remember. I mean, I can take names. Jairam Ramesh called him up and said, there was a whole fight between Kamal Nath and him in the Ministry of Commerce. So I written some stuff. So he called up and said, very mischievous. Shashi Tharoor got upset for no reason, which was, there was no reason for him to be upset. I had interviewed Mayor Tarar, I remember, and Shashi Tharoor had been giving. I had interviewed him a couple of times. Excellent. I thought we got along well. He was he's also Stephens, so that worked, that contact. And we done a couple of interviews, and then there was someone said Mayor Tarar wanted to give an interview to NewsX, and since I was a woman, they asked me she'll feel happier talking to you. So would you be okay to do it? I said, of course. Who'll say no to that? उस समय सुनंदा पुष्कर का भी हो रहा था. I think that whole she just died, and there was that whole controversy around her death. So I think Meher wanted to give a clarification about her relationship with Shashi, and she didn't want to make it so obvious. So she's the first to talk to me about the cultural life in Pakistan and all that, and then you can ask whatever you want to. Now, when you are Meher Tarar, you're not going to interview her on the cultural life. So obviously, I asked one or two questions, and then we moved on to. And she actually gave a clarification saying that there was nothing, and she considers him a good friend. So I thought he'll be happy with that. But he got very upset with that, and he sent me a note saying yellow journalism. I still have that SMS somewhere.
What the
So I said, what
hell?
a misunderstanding, that was definitely. But anyway, so that's part of the course. So yeah, these
Exactly.
things do happen.
So you've been a very, very courageous journalist. In fact, you have always you have reported very, very responsibly and responsibly. And in fact, you have made people see what they actually ought to actually see. And henceforth, you were awarded the Achievers Award for journal for in media, but for the by the Fiki Young Women's Organization. So tell us a bit about this award, Priya.
Yes, that was in fact very interesting because I think there was Pooja Bhatt was also there and a whole lot of other people, all women, of course. And that was a very emotional moment for me because my mother landed up for the award ceremony. I didn't expect her to be there. She wasn't feeling well, but one of my friends brought her over. And I remember I was that time I cried. I got the award for some reason. I think more that because my mom was there. But yeah, it was a great this thing honor to be there. It was and also to be acknowledged by people outside the profession, because the other NBA awards which I got were from within the profession. Here was recognition from somebody who's outside journalism. So that itself was a good high moment for me. And in fact, that's when I first talked about my book, that I was planning to write this, because everybody said, are you going to be writing a book? And that's spur of the moment. In answer to a question, I thought, yes, let me write about the young leaders. And that's how the idea of the book actually came about also. Because so it was an answer to one of the some questions. The way you are talking to me now, I'm sure I'll get another idea for another book.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. And उसमें पक्का मेरे को आप कहीं पे प्रलोग में कहीं पे आप मेंशन कर देना भाई. Just kidding.
Credit is to you. Yes. For
You
sure.
know, Priya, last I met you, you had this fracture, but yet you are braving it out and you were performing your duties and you were behaving very cool about it. You're like, normally I've seen people with a fracture, they create a big fuss about it. कि अरे यार, क्योंकि 26 जनवरी आ रहा है. I'll tell you the year 2008. 26
Huh.
January 2008, I was chosen from the Assam Rifles to lead the Assam Rifles marching contingent. I was in Nagaland those days, posted over there to come to
Hmm.
Delhi to lead the contingent. So I came to Delhi. I spent about good 4 months over here practicing for the parade. And just before the few days before the parade, I got stress fractures in both my legs. And the orthopedician told me that you cannot do the parade. He had written me off completely. But I said, नहीं सर parade तो मैं करूंगा. No, दुनिया की कोई ताकत नहीं रोक पाएगी मेरे को. I had 2 stress fractures. I consumed a heavy dose of painkillers, which no one should actually do. It's a wrong advice. I'm not advising anyone. It's a wrong
Hmm.
example which I had set. But yes, I ultimately did do the parade. Because it was my long cherished dream of from 1987. I had seen one of my uncles who was also in the army lead the parade in 1987 Rajpath. So वो जहन में कहीं ना कहीं था. उस तरीके से मैंने तो परेड करी वो, but and I know the feeling how it is when you actually have a fracture. Stand मगर परेड मैंने करी फिर भी और दर्द झेला. Similarly, I saw you during the conclave, the News X and India News conclave. You were active all about. So just I know it's just a thing for everyone over here that strength is not here. Strength is here. I would like you to give a message to everyone. And how are you now? How are you coping with the? I'm sure the fracture would have healed by now. Tell us a bit
Yes.
about that injury of yours, Priya. I know it's not a very pleasant experience to recall, but just so that everyone else listening to you gets motivated and feel that no, strength is actually here.
No, in fact, the reason for it for me moving around despite the fracture is that exactly the same reason as why you wanted to be part of that parade. This was my parade in that sense. I love my job. I just love it. So, to sit at home when, a conclave is ready, when you are showcasing your channel, your abilities to be an interviewer, people you get guests, you interview them. It's a great, apart from that, it's a great environment to be in. Plus it's a great opportunity also. So I did not there was no way I was going to miss that, because these conclaves are something that you actually look forward to, you work towards. One had worked towards getting those guests, and figuring out what kind of a conversation one is going to have. And then there's a high of a live audience. We have people like you sitting there asking questions, and it's more interactive than recording in a studio or something without an audience. But it was the high of the job. So if you love your job, if you just love what you do, That's my message, really. I mean, fracture or no fracture, you, if you love what you do, then you will be there and you will perform and you will deliver. At the end of the line, money and all, yes, of course it matters, it's part of loving what you do, but it's just being there in the moment and enjoying. So pick up a job, something which you enjoy doing, rather than something where a lot of people make compromises. You have to, maybe because of family, because of money, and etc etc, but if you do have that luxury of choice, then just do what you enjoy doing, and forget about everything else. That was really one what got me there.
Exactly. If you love the job that you are doing, you'll never have to do a hard day's work for the rest of your life. And
Absolutely.
and if you can convert your hobby into your profession, what better? So Priya, thank you very much. And before I know it's going to be an hour, and I've been in conversation with you. You are so engaging, and so I am so intrigued by your demeanor and your personality. I would love to go on. I recall the fact that you also have busy and you have a lot of things to do at the same time, and you have been very kind to take out time. But before we leave, any last message you would like to give to the youth of a country who want to venture into the field of journalism in particular, and how do they make a name like the way they are names, the big names like Priya Sahgal sitting over here, and who are listening to you, and who would be listening to you, who would be sharing it further and sharing this talk, and who would be getting inspired by you, Priya?
No, I think journalism is something, it's just been very much maligned today. I think because of whatever constraints and the high cost, and you depend on people for an ad budget and all. But fortunately now, because of this YouTube channel, and because everybody with a mobile phone can become a citizen journalist, it's the best time to be a journalist, because you can be true to yourself. So tell the story as it is. Tell your story, tell it without any don't go into this whole polarizing that the narrative of the day. You don't have to please anyone, you don't have to toe some line. Be yourself, and I would say don't get into this whole hyped up thing. Just keep it conversational, keep it explanatory, share something that will help someone else. That's the what I look from at the end of my story, that who has this helped apart from me, apart from me having a good time doing it. But if your work can help even one or two more persons, then you're a journalist, you're there, you've arrived. Don't harm anyone. That's the other thing. Don't pull someone down, don't harm anyone. You have to live with yourself at the end of the day. So there are people who do very nice snide, who are very good in making bitchy comments, and they're fun to hear, and you all laugh at that. But you, at the end of the day, you also hurt someone. And I think, so do something that helps and doesn't hurt, and tell your story the way you see it. Don't have to worry about who it's going to impress or not. If it's a good story, it's going to impress people for sure.
Thank you very much, Priya. Thank you very much for having this candid and this amazing chat. And I really was mesmerized when you were speaking. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate you taking your time. Thank you very much, Priya, once again. And continue doing the great work that you have been doing. And we as a nation are proud of the work that you do and proud of you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind,
Thank
Priya.
you. Thank you for having me here. And how can I not do good work after this? Thank you so much.
How sweet is that? Thank you. I just stay on. I'm just ending the broadcast.